missed that song. Hi, we're here for our final talk. I hope everybody's here and enjoying it. I'm just checking that we're live. Yeah, we're live on Facebook just to check. So how are you feeling, Jess? Feeling good?
Cool. We've all had a bit of a crazy internet connection day. You had your crazy house story, and my internet has gone off because Eskom has decided to reduce us. So I'm at a friend's house and doing it here. And so I'm a little bit frazzled, but other than that, all good.
Yeah, I feel the same. I'm at my parents' house and I'm not used to their internet. I hope it all works. So let's see how it goes.
We'll see.
Cool.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, so to start with, let's announce the smaller prizes from the last summit event. So we had the teacher talk and we were giving away a free intro to positive discipline. So the winner for that one is, drum roll, Anita Fitzgerald. Well done. Yay. I feel like we need more of an audience. And
we need streamers.
Yes. And for Meg's coaching session, Meg's Be Real with
Be
Real with Meg's,
yeah.
Jess Riley, yay! Well done, Jess Riley. And then the last one was Anna's Elite Ed coaching, which was Lindy Friedman. Well done. So those are our 3 prizes. Yay! Okay, and then we have the big prize. So Jess, you can introduce the big prize.
Well, the big prize, I thought that we'd wait for a little while, and we'll do that in a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to hear from all of our members first, and then
good idea.
And hear some stories, and then we'll
save it till later.
Save it till later. The big prize, which is a holiday away. And so I think that let's bring, if it's okay with you, let's bring all of our lovely ladies on. Let me just go down here, and here we go.
Thank you. While everybody's coming on, I was just going to introduce why we're doing this final summit event. So every single time we met to do our talks, we would say we're all kind of on similar pages. Hi, everyone. Hi, guys. We're all kind of on similar pages. And we want to share our stories with you because we all have different stories, and yet we all seem to be in similar places now. We share similar views and similar ideals, and yet sometimes different but the same. If that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense for everybody else. So I don't want to be the first one to go. I'll let somebody else start because I've talked so much for this. I'm ready to listen now. So who would like to start? Whoever feels like going, share your story with us, your journey into conscious parenting.
Should we start at the top? Because let's start at the top because Megs, you're right there. And so let's hear what your journey's been like.
Okay, thanks, ladies. So I think it's definitely a journey to conscious parenting and even conscious living. I think, and it's a journey that sort of changes every single day, and with every single phase and stage that your children sort of move through. It changes again. So just when you kind of think you've got it waxed, it changes again and again and again. And so it's just a constant journey of evolving and obviously, just trying to do the best that we can. But I think for me, in my journey of parenting, there was an aha moment for me that I remember very clearly that changed my whole perspective on parenting. And then obviously got me started on my journey towards parent coaching. So as part of my studies was like a life coaching thing. So that was sort of my direction before my aha moment. But my aha moment was I was doing a parenting course because my little girl was, she was about 2.5 and she was very, very strong-willed. And I did not know what to do with her. I was like, this is just insane. So I went on this amazing course, which is where I ended up doing some of my facilitator training. But the thing that really just jumped out at me straight away was when I learned that actually the underlying sort of key to everything is connection. And the way to connect is just through sowing into your relationship with your children. And it was such a wow moment for me because we all know that we have to sow into our friendships and our marriages or our romantic relationships because we all know that relationships are give and take. But for some reason, we kind of just expect our children to just listen and just be there on the other end of this relationship without realizing that it's exactly the same as any other relationship. You have to sow into the relationship in order to get it into a place where you're going to have cooperation, just like you do in a friendship. I mean, if you completely neglect your friends, they're not going to be your friends anymore, right? So that was like a really big moment for me, and it just was like a light bulb moment where I realized that everything could be different if I actually just started to sow into my relationship with my children. So that was really, really massive. And that's where my
do you think, Megs, just sorry, just coming in there, that the idea that we don't intrinsically kind of feel like that, because you say with our relationships it's so easy, we know that we have to invest, but with our kids it's kind of like you need to think a step further, because as the parent we're sort of in an old way of thinking, we're sort of the boss and we must lead and we must know what's right, and we're on the top and they're on the bottom. And then, in a friendship, you're equal. You're pretty much the same height, for lack of a better term. You're on the same level. And when it comes to your kid, it's they're there, and you are the one who's driving the boat, and not that it's a cooperation thing.
And then absolutely, and it's also just been so sort of almost socialized into us that that's how life works. That I'm the parent, and therefore you will listen, and I will tell, and that's just how sort of it's been done forever. And I think the minute you realize that actually you're a partner with your children, and like recently I've been hearing a lot of how we're not getting them ready for life. This is their life. They're in their life, and they're a little partner in this relationship. And the minute you kind of take that on board and start to treat them that way, everything changes.
I like how you said that, like, because so often we hear that teachers and everybody's like, your kid needs to be ready for this and ready for that, and in grade R they need to be ready for grade 1. Just let them be ready for today and let's see how it goes. I really like that.
In life, they're living life, like this is
they're doing it now. Exactly.
So that was huge. And then I think just another aha moment for me was in my life, which just feeds into parenting, because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be difficult, as we discussed before, to be an effective parent. And I think that was sort of when I came to a place in my life where I decided that actually, again, like this is my life. I'm not preparing for it. I'm not getting ready for when this and if that. Like, this is it. And I actually want to start enjoying it and structuring it in a way that is healthy for me and my family. And why do we go about life often? I don't know if we don't feel worthy of actually enjoying our life. We again are in this this rut of we have to be busy to be doing well and doing and just sort of living just flying through life and not actually appreciating it and enjoying it. When I kind of came to a place in my life where I was like, actually, enough is enough. I want to, actually be part of my life and enjoy it. That again, it just made that journey on conscious parenting so much more easy, and it made it flow more because I moved myself into a space where I was more able to parent more effectively.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And I think a lot of people share that sentiment. And I wanted to also just share with those of you at home, if you have a story you want to share with all of us, please add it in the comments. I forgot to say it at the beginning, because we'd love to hear your journey, where you're at, whether you're starting out on conscious parenting, whether you're in the middle, if that even exists, wherever you are. I feel like it's a continuous journey, like Meg said. So thanks for sharing your story with us. It's so interesting. Then can we move to Cassandra? Cassandra, you ready to share with us?
I'm ready.
Cool,
so basically, we all leave school and we think, what are we going to do with our lives, right? So, I was at two totally different fields. So it's either, go and study something business, like, financial management, or go and study psychology with kids. And, at that point in my life, I thought, okay, well, let me go the business route. Let me go and study finance. And then I thought, well, while I'm studying finance, I can have the best of both worlds and actually work with kids. And so I started au pairing and working with kids because I'd babysat a bit in high school. And, my mom was a principal. So it was in us, and we enjoyed it. And then, so I studied finance, was au pairing on the side. And then eventually, just, after studying, decided to go into finance, and I worked as a financial advisor for a couple of years. And working as a financial advisor, I thought, this is just not for me. It was not my passion. And I thought, well, let me go back into working with kids. So then again, I went back into au pairing, worked as an au pair for a couple of years. And, something that always sat with me was the nanny knows. It's me.
Well, you just put it in there.
Yeah. Was the show Super Nanny. I watched it as a teenager. I was like, well, this is it. She's got this down. She knows exactly what she's doing. So, I want to bring that to South Africa. And so it was, working through kids, a lot of families at the time also had the timeout methods. So, we were incorporating a lot of that, very much Super Nanny style in the homes. And I just found a lot of the time, it worked, it can work if you're consistent with it. But what I just found was it, totally breaks connection with kids. And so I wanted to investigate. I was constantly hungry and wanting to learn information. So I decided the finance route I was not going down. So let me further my education in, with children. And so I did a course in child psychology. And it was through this course that I was introduced to positive parenting. I was given a book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. And I was given this book to study. And this was really the introduction to my positive parenting journey. And I took all the principles from this book and I applied it to the kids that I was working with. And I thought, this is absolutely phenomenal, because not only is it working, but the long-term impact that it's actually having on these kids is huge. It's so beneficial. So then, the problem that I did find with that, though, it was me applying these principles and not actually the parents. And that is also what the kids really actually needed. Then, of course, went and had my own kids. And it was through this that I thought, I was constantly involved in, learning more about positive and conscious parenting. And so it wasn't just this course that I took on. And through learning all of that, I was applying all of these principles with my own kids. And this is where I was like, wow, I'm seeing the magic happen, because, the terrible twos, so-called, as I've now, named them the terrific twos, that was the beginning of I was just really enjoying these twos. And it was, that relationship that you build on mutual respect and on cooperation, that I just found, there's so much magic when you actually connect with your child and apply all of these principles, and do away totally with punishment, and just have that relationship with your child. And so through that was when I started Nanny Knows. It was, a dream of mine, to bring Super Nanny to South Africa, except now it was a totally different vision. So then I started, working with parents so that they could have the same relationship that I found I had with my kids through positive and conscious parenting. And again, applying all of these principles with them. And, what I found is it's not, you don't need any sort of techniques or strategies or tools per se. There are so many, but it's more so how you communicate with your kid, the type of relationship that you have with them. And that's the fundamental, that is, you can use all the tools, but the fundamental is building that relationship, and having that connection. So that's where my journey started.
So
Thanks for sharing
if you
that.
don't mind, I just want to, it's so interesting that you say that. And I think one of the reasons we're here is because we are all on, different parts of this same journey type thing. And for me, in my journey, the tools are the most helpful. because I can understand on a conscious level that it's about the connection and that it's about the relationship. But when my lid is flipped and when my son is driving me mad and my one son triggers me a lot more than my other, Claire and I were chatting about this the other day, I see red and I can't think. And I in that moment, I don't want to build a connection with him. Everything in my being goes, if this was a relationship, I would break up with him long ago, because I don't like being treated like this. This is an abusive relationship and he's taking advantage of me and I can't stand it anymore. So for me, when I learn those tools, that's the most helpful, because I can go, take a breath, go to the chart, look at the chart, think again, and do something now. And so I think that's very interesting that Claire's signal looks like it's dropped off. I'll bring her back on when she comes back. So I think it's very interesting that, every parent will take away something from this sort of level of consciousness of being aware of your strategies, of being aware of the relationship and how you deal with your children, how you, Meg said, invest with your children, and we'll use different things. And for the ultimate goal, which is obviously having that relationship, because without the tools, then the relationship's easy. It's easy when it's easy. And also, I only came into this later when my kids were slightly older, so I've got all the baggage from before, having not raised the first one with fully conscious parenting. So it's really interesting that you said that.
I think the biggest thing that I have, taken from this whole conscious parenting is, it always starts with me as a person. So, I mean, the way I look at it, you've got all of these tools in terms of, what to do in the moment with your child, but it always comes back to me. So why am I not handling a situation a specific way? What is triggering me? What is going on with me? And once I always go back to that and become conscious of that and aware of that, I can use all of the tools later on, So the first thing always, what's going on with me in this moment for me not to connect with my child? Why are we having this war at the moment? And so why I say you don't necessarily need all the tools to begin with is because before I can start using the tools, I always go, well, what's happening internally with me?
Oh, I love that. Sorry, I dropped off for a bit. I'm back. So I missed what you guys have said. So what I was going to say, I'm not going to say in case you've already said it. Thanks, Cassandra. It was nice to hear, because I did hear till the end. Let's move on to Kelly. Kelly, let's hear what you have to say about your journey.
Hi. I have got twin boys. They're currently 4, going on 24. And I actually started out, I loved writing, and my whole plan was to be a copywriter. I thought the advertising world was for me. I don't know why. And so I studied media and writing at UCT, and I did a lot of psychology with that because I was interested in child psychology, and I loved all the child development stuff. And then in my kind of vax, I would go and work at my dad's vacation. I'd go and work at my dad's ad agency and realized this is not for me. I can't do this. And then I read about Montessori. And then I went and did my Montessori qualification and worked at a school for a few years and ended up running the preschool in Hout Bay. And it was an amazing school because they were the headmistress had done positive discipline course, and she was very pro it. So we did a lot of training, and we had workshops and all sorts of things. And I loved it. And I was like, when I become a parent, I'm going to be a positive parent. It's going to happen. And then I became a parent, and it was so much harder than it was. I could take 24, 3 to 6 year olds and sit through tantrums and smile. And, it was easy. But 2 of my own. Yeah. And my 2 had a very traumatic start to life. They were born at 31 weeks, and there was a long hospital stay, and they're 100% fine, and they were amazing. But it took a lot of strain on my mental health. So I thought I was fine, but I got bad dissociation. And for the first 2 years of their life, I was there, but I wasn't there. And it was awful. And I remember coming across a program called Hand in Hand Parenting, and I read about it, and I was like, I'm going to give this a try. And I did the parent starter class, and the tools that they provided kind of helped me break down that wall that I had put up around myself to protect myself from all these scary feelings. And I connected with my children for the first time, when they were, it wasn't quite 2 years, 18 months old. And it was amazing. And it gave me the power to trust myself as a mom. When you feel like you need to do a certain thing, you do it because you know that at the end of the day, your gut is usually right. And so there was such a transformation in me and such a transformation in our family that I did the instructor course, and that was a year long, and it was intensive and it was a lot, but it was amazing. And now I'm a practicing hand-in-hand instructor, hand-in-hand parenting instructor, I should say. And as I think it was Megs, you were saying how as your children grow up, you almost like have to redo everything. You think you've got it, and you think like, oh, this is how I handle such and such. And I don't know, I've seen such a huge jump between 3 and 4. Like they've gone from being, I don't know, they're just like these little people now, and they like to tell jokes and they like to make you laugh, and things just get more fun, but they also at the same time get a lot more opinionated. And I think, going down this road, I love research, and I love any kind of just learning more and more and more, and just the brain science behind parenting and behind children and how we connect in the relationship as parent and child. Once you understand that, it just makes a whole lot so much easier. And that for me has been probably one of the biggest things about becoming a conscious parent. And handling, knowing when is the right time to put a boundary down, and when is the right time to be playful, and when is the right time to, listen to the tantrum, and when is the right time to be like, oh, this isn't the best time, how can we move past this? And so that's how I
love
got
that.
here.
And I love how the thread so far for each person, the word connection. Everybody
Is
said connection.
everything.
I love it. And it sounds so simple, but there's so much work that can go into it. But yet it can also be so simple, as that. Yeah. Thanks so much, Kelly. So lovely to hear your story as well. Can we go to Rita up at the top now? You've landed up at the top.
Hi, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I have the story that I was in grade 8, and my teacher asked us, what do we want to be one day when we grow up? And I immediately said to her, well, I think I want to be a psychologist or just work with people. Social work is something like that. So it's just always been in my being, and I knew this was what I was cut out to be. So I went to university, did psychology, finished the honours, planning on the masters, and then my twins surprised. It was a big surprise. And so I said to my husband, let me just take a kick back and just take care of the babies for a little while. And in that process, I heard of life coaching, and that's not 12 years ago. I heard of life coaching, and I did my life coaching course through Australia for 2 years, and I fell completely in love with coaching. I enjoyed it so much. And that is also when the global community opened up for me. And that's when I realized we sometimes think we are in South Africa and we're different, but once you realize that the whole global community has the same struggles, has the same frustrations, you kind of don't feel that alone anymore. So the twins are 13 years old now, and also like so many of us here, I just felt hungry more and more to know more and learn more about parenting and assisting, because I just saw more children, more teenagers were referred to me, and I felt really worried because I would love to see children taken care of for 6 or 7 hours at school and the remainder of that time at home. And then I really started looking at courses and what can we study, how can we structure this more. And that's when I got a wonderful course bought the course, did the course, and it changed my whole life. It transformed the way that I thought about so many things. And then I bought the teenager course because my twins are 13, so it's very appropriate right now. Love the course as well, good practical things. And I think that is why the coaching and the courses and the parenting that came across my path works so well. I'm a very practical person, so don't tell me, oh, I love my son. Okay, yes, okay. You know you love your son. How are you going to show him you love him, So I'm just so practical person. So I would like to know how things work. And so, yes, I think being connected and being open to the possibility of different cultures, and also teaching our children how to cope in different cultures and what is your culture and what's somebody else's culture. It's so rich, it's so important, it just makes us who we are, and understanding so much more and integrating so much more. So I love conscious parenting and positive discipline parenting, because I think just it brings back the basics of sitting down every single night around the table, having your meal together. If you can stand up tomorrow morning at breakfast together and say, good luck, guys, have a good day. I'm thinking of you writing your test or whatever, and just waiting for them anxiously to come home for you to embrace them and say, well, I really don't mind if it's a C or a C minus on your report, but are you okay? That must have been horrible. And I just see so many parents just have this incredibly hard expectation of the kids, and it's tearing so many kids apart. And the moment that you start turning and helping, assisting and turning the tables of getting the child emotionally stable and fine and supported, academically, they do want to do well. Children want to do well at school. So that was a big aha moment for me. That was a big turn for me. And one of the reasons why I decided to pursue also my career further in working with teachers and schools. So I think that's it.
Thanks, Rita. That's such a lovely journey. And I love how every journey so far has been so different. But like we said, we've all kind of landed in the same pool of knowledge. I don't know how else to explain it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Okay, then Tamarin, let's hear from you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I hope that my internet is playing along, because I noticed everyone else sort of breaking up and freezing occasionally. Yes. So growing up, I didn't have much exposure to corporal punishment. That wasn't something that happened in our house. So I guess my parents were a little ahead of their times in that respect. But that being said, there were still, timeouts and taking away of privileges. And that's how I grew up expecting parenting, to be. I didn't know what alternative tools there were. Growing up, I knew that when I one day had children, I wanted to have that relationship with them when they were older, that trust relationship, that if they were in trouble, that they would come to me rather than, try and hide it, for example. But I had no idea how I would ever get to that point. It was just this very long-term goal. And then as part of my degree, I majored in psychology. And in my social psychology module, they discussed different parenting styles. And that's the first time I heard of things like, authoritarian versus authoritative and all that sort of thing. And I came to develop a bit of a better understanding of the different ways in which you can actually achieve that relationship with your children. And they spoke specifically about punishment, and how it doesn't work, and not just with children. Obviously, they were talking about adults in a correctional facility type environment and so on. And then, then I fell pregnant, and I sort of wanted to parent instinctively because everyone has all of these different opinions, and I sort of decided that I'm just going to go with what the science says and with what my instinct says. And it was at that point that we looked into things like hypnobirthing, where already you discuss conscious parenting from the time that your baby is still in the womb. And through having done the hypnobirthing and being part of sort of natural birthing groups, pro breastfeeding groups, it's sort of this community of moms. Some people call them crunchy moms. You know, it's the moms who do the baby wearing and the breastfeeding and the co-sleeping and so on. And conscious parenting and positive discipline sort of just seem to fit into that. So as I found myself joining these sort of Facebook groups and getting into this community, I started developing a better sense of what conscious parenting actually is. And learning that things like timeouts and take away privileges actually also doesn't really fit into the conscious parenting model. And that's basically how I came to be involved in all of this. So my little one is turning 4 in July, so it's been an interesting journey so far. And I can relate so much to what was said earlier about the terrific twos, not the terrible twos. It was such a lovely age. And every time someone asked, how old is your little one? I'd say 2. Then they're, oh no, the terrible twos. How are the tantrums? And I couldn't relate. I thought, but this is such a wonderful age. She's developing so rapidly, her vocabulary. It's such a fun age. And I just see this little personality developing more and more, and I was actually really enjoying it, and it's sort of getting better and better, and just seeing what actually comes of that secure attachment. When she was a baby, I wish I had a rand for every time someone told me that I'm spoiling her, baby wearing, you're spoiling her, and I knew that it was going to pay off in the long term. I knew, okay, this is actually the course that I need to be on, to get to that point where we have that trust relationship when she's bigger, and she'll be independent, and we'll have that, secure relationship and foundation already in place. And yeah, that's how I got to where I am.
Oh, I love that. And I love how you say it from like before birth, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about. It's not something I thought about. It's nice to know that's a way to, but also to know that if you didn't start then, that's also okay. Am I right in saying that?
On that note, Claire, can I ask Tamron, if you have any advice for someone who, say, has a 2-year-old now, who is struggling, who doesn't see it as the terrific twos, who has a child who has tantrums and goes, I don't know what to do here, and they're driving me crazy. What kind of advice would you have for someone who's in that position, who's at that stage of their journey now?
I think I would definitely refer them to a parenting coach, someone like Claire, for example, who actually teaches your positive parenting courses, and really just get them to look at the biology behind it, because that was a real eye-opener for me, actually understanding that babies cannot be manipulative. That it's not a tantrum, it's a meltdown. Understand what's happening within their brain at that time. And it started very early on for us. There's this app called the Wonder Weeks, and it tells you when your baby is going through a developmental spurt, in their brain. And instead of just seeing the fussy behavior, you start looking for the skills that they're actually developing. Instead of this 6-month-old that just didn't want to sleep, I realized she's going to start crawling in a day or 2. And it's just this understanding behind what's driving the behavior. It really allows you just to take a step back and not take it personally, and not think, oh, this child's going to drive me crazy. You take yourself out of the equation, and it's empathy. It's developing empathy for your child and understanding of where they are coming from and why they are behaving in the way that they are. Just, to nourish that understanding, I think, is the biggest step for someone like that to take, who's struggling with a toddler.
I think not taking it personally is huge. Yeah. No,
I was going to say the same. And removing yourself from the situation where you're not actually, it's not about you, or it's not at you, and you don't have to take it personally. I really like that. Thanks, Tamron. Thanks for sharing your story. And Lilia, love to hear your story, Lilia. I know it's very interesting. I've heard it before, so I'm looking forward to hearing it again.
So long ago, so I'll try and keep it short. I've taken notes because of my little ADHD brain. Okay, so I became a mom 24 years ago, and I was a very young mom. I was studying psychology at the time, and I wasn't married. And so when I fell pregnant, it was big skanda. And I really went into deep depression. I lost a lot of important people in my life because I chose to keep my baby. And that was really, I think, a huge moment for me in my life where I just knew that I wanted to raise my son in a world where there was more compassion and more understanding. And so we moved away from our home with my small baby. He was 9 months old, and we came to a new town, my boyfriend and I. And we got involved in a community where there were lots of moms with young kids. And I read all the James Dobson books and all those books that told me that my son must listen once, and if he doesn't listen, he must get a smack on his bum. And anyway, I ended up having 3 sons quite close together. And I just remember well-meaning older women always telling me I was too soft. You know, you're too soft on them. They're ruling the roost. You've got to have a firmer hand. And I remember disliking parenting. Like, I loved the baby stage where I was breastfeeding and feeling connected to them. And then when they got to the age where they needed discipline, I felt myself becoming increasingly anxious and not liking who I was and not enjoying my life and our days. And anyway, so I had 4 children by the time I got divorced. All my dreams fell apart. And I went into, like, I think, a social anxiety or something. I just literally never left the house other than taking these kids to school and coming home. And in that time, I just started researching. I got Facebook for the first time in my life. And I started researching, like, how to heal little hearts or something. I typed that in the top. And I found Ella Nost. She had a page called Little Hearts at that time. And I remember, like, just working out how to message her, and she replied, and she mentored me for well over a year, just trying to help me to heal. The kids and I were very traumatized after the divorce, and they were 5, 7, 9, and 11. I had 3 sons and 1 little girl. And that's where my gentle parenting journey started. I just fell in love with it. I wanted to tell everybody I knew about it. And when I did, I realized not everybody wanted to hear what I had to say. So I was quite devastated. I was like, why don't people want to know about this? And it just heightened my social anxiety. So I'm being very vulnerable now, but I made a little Facebook group, a secret group on Facebook, and I met other moms who were learning about attachments and gentle parenting, and we shared ideas. And then I made a public Facebook where I just wanted to share everything I was learning. And it's through that community that I was really strengthened. I got remarried. I've had 2 more children. And it was advocacy work. It was child advocacy work. That's all I ever really thought I would do with it, until I was approached by somebody who really believed in me, who wants to remain anonymous, who said they want me to do this parenting coaching course. I was helping so many people online, and she was like, you're taking all this time away from your kids when you could be paid for this, and you're good at it, you know, so you should do this qualification. And so I did the qualification through JAI, Parenting Institute. It's international. And even then, I didn't really have the confidence to go ahead. And I think it was through all my independent research on the nervous system and trauma that I realized that I have to do this. I also had a near-death experience with my youngest son, and a lot changed for me there, where I realized I want to leave like a legacy behind. And so I want to just, like, the ripple effect. That's how I found you, by the way. I saw ripple effect, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. There's a ripple effect. Like, someone helped me, I helped someone, they helped somebody else, and that's how gentle parenting or conscious parenting gets passed along. And so now I think I'm more of like an advocate for parents. Obviously, it's always about children, but it's also about the child within us all, and having that heart has helped. I've just fallen in love with helping parents. So that's my story in a nutshell, I suppose.
That's so lovely. Thanks, Lilia. And I know you were the first person I followed on Instagram for conscious parenting, like long ago, and I was just like in awe of everything that you wrote. Like, so it's amazing that you're on the association with us, because I was just so like, I don't know what the word is. Like, I idolized all your stuff. So here you are, yay! And so thank you, and thanks for sharing your story with us and for being vulnerable with us. Okay, and then the last person is Jess at the top.
Oh, I forgot that I had to share a story.
I know.
I'm so used to just being in the background. I just watch all of you ladies speak. I get so involved in your lives. I feel like I know you all so well now. I feel like my story is quite similar to Tamron's in that I also wanted to do quite instinctual parenting, because I had studied behavior. I'd studied the mammalian brain. So I was like, cool, if I know about this, then, and I also studied like a lot of evolution, because I work with animals. So you have to know how animals become animals and what their driving force is, and why, there's three reasons why, why any organism does anything. And one is to survive, one is to, which is avoiding danger, the other is to find food, and the other is to procreate. And with those three things, that's all there really is. That's the three driving forces behind anything. And then you can make it more complex after that. I was like, if I just go back to, the evolution of this all, if I ignore all the mommy groups on Facebook, if I ignore all the advice and I go, here's me and my baby, what does he need? And I look at it like that. If I was in a cave and like no one else was telling me, and I just listened to my own wisdom, surely that'll be enough. I was also in a hell of a lot of denial when I was pregnant, because I was busy studying and it was too much stuff, and I was starting a new job. And so I did a lot of ostriching at the time. So part of me was like, I don't want to hear it, because I'll do it later. But it was very much this pull to do everything like from my own wisdom, which was great until he turned 2, because that's where my my sort of behavior knowledge pretty much, I don't want to say ended, but it was kept to the point where when we work with animals, we have to use Occam's razor in terms of, if the simplest answer has to be true. If we can answer a problem, if we can solve something, if we can explain something through Occam's razor, through the simplest explanation for this behavior, we need to use that rather than applying some sort of anthropomorphism to an animal, because then it gets complicated. So I was going, okay, cool, I understand the brain. But what I didn't consider was a lot of the human psychology that goes on with little people and their little needs and their little drives from a very human point of view. I was looking at it purely from a biological point of view. And so I feel like with my first son, I missed a lot of it, because I was looking at it in terms of, okay, he's having a meltdown. This is just, the rage system activated. If you look at Panksepp, it's the rage system that's active, and it's going to go up, and it's going to increase as his frustration increases, and eventually he's going to hit an extinction burst, and then he's going to stop, and he's going to be calm again, and that's fine. And so that's a lot of it. I would just let it play out. But then when my second son was born and he started having seizures every time he got upset, that wasn't an option anymore, because I couldn't let it play out. So now I had to intervene beforehand, and I didn't have the skills to do that. So I needed to understand this whole connection thing a lot better, of how do we kind of circumvent that without, having him have no boundaries. So it was a lot more learning about the human side of it. And I mean, I'm so glad, that people often say the worst thing that ever happens to you turns out to be the best thing. And it really was. I would never imagine that, my child nearly dying was going to be the best thing that ever happened to us, because it did. It taught me so much. And after that, it feels like everything makes so much more sense. And then it led me to all of you ladies. So, I mean, what an amazing, blessing that was at the end of the day, that I got to learn all this stuff and then be connected with so many like-minded people, because I can't remember who said it, but it can be quite isolating. I think, Lilia, you learn about this stuff and no one else wants to hear it. You can be connected in these groups, but people don't like to be told that there's a different way, or a better way, or a more conscious way, people don't like to change. People pay me to help them change their animals, and then they still don't want to do it because change is hard. It is really hard, and I understand that it's hard. And so I just feel like being part of this group is so awesome, because I can learn so much, from you, and we can, the fact that we're all at different places and we've all come from such different places, but have the same sort of connection through what we've learned and what we want to spread out to the rest of, the world. I think that is just such a powerful thing, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Thanks, Jess. And I'm so glad that we did all connect, because it's just been part of my vision for so long. And then when I met all of you, you were like, oh, it's part of my vision too. And that's how we all met, so which is awesome. Okay, and I'll share my story very quickly. I think I did share it in one of the earlier talks, but I don't know if anybody actually knows this, but I had a similar story to Cassandra with the super nanny. I was going to be super nanny, and then I was teaching, and I was like, timeouts work and reward charts work, and I was killer. Like, I had the quietest class. People would come into my class and they're like, oh, how did you do it? And I'm like, because I'm awesome. I wouldn't say that, but I thought I had it all together, and I didn't. So even when I did positive discipline, I thought that's what I was going to learn. I was going to learn about star charts, and I was going to learn about timeouts, but I was going to learn how to do it properly. And then my mind was just absolutely blown, because I was like, that's not it. And that was when my kids were born. So I'd already taught for 7 years, not knowing this stuff. And when I found out there was a different way, it blew my mind. And that's where the ripple effect started. Because I used to think, well, if everybody knows about timeouts, imagine the world we could live in. Everyone would know how to behave. And then I was like, whoa, what am I talking about? When I started realizing how the brain works, and how timeouts are isolating, and how kids just need you and need connection, same as everyone's been saying. And I just started realizing that is the ripple effect. Showing people how to love each other, like showing people the core connection of just being human and wanting a relationship with your kids. And I think that was a big one for me, to see that it's no different to my relationship with my mom, my husband, my friends, my kids. It's just it's forming a relationship and getting to know them, and them getting to know me. And yeah, that was, I think the one thing I did say, the timeouts for me, I remember reading a quote, and I don't know it verbatim, but it was something like, instead of using a timeout, why don't you use a time in? And I literally remember myself laughing, like, this is ridiculous. A time in. Stupid. These kids are never going to learn anything. You're going to have all these brats in the world. And I'm hearing this every day now on social media. And to know the other side of it, I'm just so grateful that I opened my mind, because it took opening my mind that much to open it and open it and open it, to be aware of what is out there. So, and then to end off my little bit, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for sharing the vision with me, and for coming along on this ride, because I know there's so much more to come. So, so thank you. Which leads to thanks to the end of our announcements as well. We've got 3 exciting announcements that we want to tell everyone. So firstly, we're opening the CPASA to new members. So anybody who wants to join, whatever profession you're in, if you're working with parents, you're working with children, you're working with teachers, and you want a more conscious world, then please come and join us. We'll actually add the link. I forgot to say, but we'll add the link to the bottom when we get a chance. The second thing is we're starting our Facebook group called Conscious Parents of South Africa. So this will be open to parents and whoever's interested in learning more about conscious parenting. Come on in. We're there to support each other, to learn from each other, including us. I'd love to learn from you. So we'll also put the link up for that. And the third thing is we have an exciting 14-day challenge coming up, and I'm not going to say too much about it. So you need to just keep your eyes open for the information that's going to come about that. So those are my 3 announcements, and then Jess has the exciting final announcement.
So, the last thing is I'm going to bring up, we decided we were doing other prizes with a hat, but there were a lot of names, and so I didn't put all the names down, and printing them out and cutting them out took a long time. So now I'm just going to bring up this this randomized wheel. Let me just see for it to come up. And so I'm going to click it, and one person here is going to win a 4-night stay in the game reserve. So let me just change my screen here quickly, and let's see.
We need like a song.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I know Leanne. Yay. I'm so excited for her. Yay, congrats, Leanne.
Yay. Well done, Leanne.
So deserving. Well done, Leanne. That is so awesome.
Awesome.
Yay,
So
well
we'll get hold of you, Leanne. Well, you can tell her, Claire.
I will. Wow, that's
now,
amazing. She's
awesome.
she's not family. She's independent, so she can win the prize.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Yay. Oh, that's great. Okay,
Awesome.
thanks everybody for joining us. I can't believe this is the end of our summit. I don't know if anybody has anything they want to say before we end off, anything that's jumped into your head that you have to share before we go. I think
The only
I'll
thing
just
that I can
mention,
really-
yeah, Sandra, sorry.
Yeah, the only thing
I'll
that I
ask
can
and then
really
I'll
think
give
of is, is that this conscious parenting journey for me has also made me realize it's not about perfect parenting, right?
Yes.
My son still throws his tantrums. We still have moments. But I've just learned how to better respond to those moments, and it's, again, not perfectly. I mean, I'm still on a continuous learning journey, and that is what's so phenomenal about this. So I think that's one of the biggest things that really stands out for me. I'm not a perfect parent. We still have our moments, but it's just about becoming conscious of what is going on in that moment for me, for him, for the situation around us. And this is not about perfect parenting. We don't have those moments where everything is just hunky-dory. We have a lot of moments.
Yeah,
I think that's
I'm glad
such an
you added
important
that.
point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I'm glad you added it because I think that's something that we didn't mention because we are talking about our journey. But it's, I think all of us, I don't know about all of you, for me, jeepers, I have days. Like yesterday was a day. Like I was like, I can't believe I'm a parent coach and I'm saying this to my child. Like I know better. And I say it to my husband and he's like, you're a human being, but you're learning every day. And it's hard. But thank you for adding that because I think that's so important for parents to know. And the one thing sorry,
Claire, to interrupt you. Just before you move on, there was something that Jane Nelson once said. So she had 7 children, and then she called them her before, her during, and her after children. So her 2 children, the last 2, were after she really had got the whole Adlerian psychology concept down. And she said they were such a pleasure to raise, and it was all good. And then when her daughter had grown up and had her own children, they were at somewhere like Disneyland or something, and her son was having a meltdown, and then she started screaming at him, and she was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I was raised with positive discipline. I now teach it. You're my mother. How can I'm such a failure? This is awful. And so Jane said to her, how often do you think you use, like on a, just a scale, how often do you think you use positive discipline compared to when you don't? And she's like, I don't know, probably like 95%. So Jane packs up laughing and she said, well, when I was parenting you guys, your dad asked me the same question and I said probably 80%, and I wrote the book. So I think that's really what it is. We're not perfect. That's the whole point, is that there is no such thing as perfect. And I don't know if this is the same for you guys, but often I'll find myself in a social situation where my son has huge explosions. He goes from 0 to serious explosion in like no time at all. And people look. And when you do this, there's so much more added pressure that you should be in control of it and you should have a perfectly behaved child. And I think one of the things that's really important is that that's not what it is. It's not about having perfectly behaved children. That's a suppressed child. Most of our, like our culture goes, if they're good and they don't say anything, that's important. In fact, today I had my son at the shops and he was crying because he had one of those little trolleys and you can't take the little trolley out of the shop. And so he was incredibly sad about the fact that his trolley couldn't come. So he was crying and wailing, and I was like, I know, I'm so sorry. You're very disappointed. And when we got to the car to, unload the groceries, the car guard very kindly said, that's okay, boy, don't cry. And I know with every being, like everything, he was trying to be kind. Because it's that social facilitation. That's what people say. Don't cry, be happy. Yeah. But he's so sad. Of course he must cry. And, I'm not going to do a lecture to the car guard on how important, these unpleasant emotions are. But he's crying and everyone's looking and why is your child crying? And that's okay. We sort of, I think as a community have to make that a really important message that these emotions are good and we're not going to succeed all the time. And that's not what it's about. It's not about success. It's about like just being present and allowing these things to happen. And I think also having met all of you ladies, knowing that is also made me so much more comfortable in my skin when my children are having meltdowns and everyone is watching and I can go, you know what, this is okay. This is okay. I'm doing fine. There is, I can step away from the judgment. I can step away from that. It's easier now. It wasn't easy, but it is easier because it isn't about perfection.
Yeah, I'm glad we added that. I think I just wanted to add one last thing. I know we're going one last thing because I think it's so important, is all of you watching at home, me included, everybody in the whole world, you've all been parented in a certain way. And often we need to unpack that before we can be more conscious with our kids. And that's a journey in itself. And that was something I forgot to mention, because for me, that's been my bigger journey, is what happened in my childhood? How is that affecting my kids before I even think of parenting? So,
Definitely.
Thanks all of you for joining, and thanks all of you at home. I hope you enjoyed the summit as much as we did. We've got other members who couldn't be here today, but if you'd like to see how to get hold of any of us, if you want to see any of our services, please check out the website, CPA, it's at the bottom, the cpasa.org.za. Contact us. We are here now. We want to provide support to South Africa. We want to grow. We want to spread it out as far as we can. And yeah, we can't wait to have you on the journey with us. So join the Facebook group. Join the membership if you want to be part of it. And thanks everyone for joining, and have a lovely
Thank
evening.
you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.